You're listening to One Bright Star's Life After Loss, a podcast that's focused on the lifelong journey of life after loss, with your hosts Erica Fisher and Alicia Moore. One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast is sponsored by the law firm of Burkholtz and Associates. And now, One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast.
Hello, and welcome to One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast. I'm Erica Fisher, Executive Director for One Bright Star.
And I'm Alicia Moore, President of One Bright Star.
And today we welcome Linda Janavaras. Linda is the founding mother of One Bright Star.
Hello.
How are you, Linda?
I'm doing really good. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you so much for being here today on this lovely day.
Yes, happy to do it.
So, One Bright Star was founded in 1998. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how One Bright Star started up?
Sure. Going back further, in 1996, four mothers got together, me, one of them, to support one another just for coffee. And as it went along, we decided we needed to do something for others because we couldn't just sit and talk about ourselves and our children. We wanted to do something in honor of our children. And so we started the process of making One Bright Star. We came up with the name, a symbol, and we became a nonprofit organization in 1998.
And the most wonderful nonprofit organization ever, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm part of the board, but...
Yes. We started because we wanted to be a resource for families that have lost children to death. Because the four mothers each had lost a child. And it's not how you lost a child, but that you lost your child that was important to us. And we wanted our children to be remembered and all children that have passed to be remembered.
So when you talk about your child, John, tell me a little bit about John.
Oh, well, in my eyes, John was a great kid. And in a lot of kids' eyes. He was the victim of meningitis here in Mankato, Minnesota, when we had the outbreak. 10 people got meningitis, and John is the one that passed. He was only sick 18 hours, and then he was gone. It was a terrible, very public ordeal for all of us. But we miss that happy soul.
And I remember John in school. And he was an awesome hockey player. I remember that.
He loved hockey. That was his favorite sport. So everything he did had to do with hockey. When he played soccer in the summer, it was because he was working on his skills for hockey.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And now, since it was 1995 that he passed, you and many others, I'm seeing their children are now graduating from high school or in college. So it's really different to see those kids and their children's children.
Right. Yeah. it makes you think about a lot of things, huh?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Futures that never were.
Which is one of those things that you talk about, Linda, that you want to remember your child. And I know up at the memorial site, we have a bench up there that says, "We remember." And so it's about talking about John.
Right.
And we've learned that from you and the other mothers.
That's one of our messages that we wanted to give. And so the people weren't afraid to talk to me about my son or to anyone else about their child. And if you cry, it's okay. Don't be afraid of tears. Tears are cleansing, and people afraid to make someone else cry, and they always apologize when they say, "Oh, you're crying, I'm so sorry." Well, no, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I learned that from you, Linda, actually, and talking about John and other mothers who have lost a child that, I mean, before One Bright Star, I was afraid to even bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid to talk about, friends who have lost their child or their brother. And being with such an amazing organization like One Bright Star, it made me open my eyes and heart to mothers, families, other children who have lost somebody.
Because it's something that doesn't ever go away.
Right.
For the family that has lost that child. They don't forget.
It's a
And
lifelong
doesn't matter.
journey.
Right. And so it's a new journey. It's a different journey. It's a journey we hope you don't ever have to take. But if you do, you have to learn how to walk that path.
Right. And you're not alone.
Yep. For sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the neat things, among many things that have come about from John's passing and forming of One Bright Star, is the star, the symbol. Tell us a little bit about that, Linda.
Right. One of the mothers is, I should say, an artist. She no longer lives in Minnesota, but we thought that we'd like to have a star as our symbol, and then the point a little extended. And so we copyrighted that artwork and have used that as our symbol for One Bright Star. And then we also created a poem, which we worked diligently for a couple of years, trying to get it just right. So those two things helped with the whole concept of One Bright Star. And then when we built the memorial in Erlinson Park, it all kind of came together for families.
And it's beautiful. The thing that I have really liked about the star is that it's that symbol, and I know that it's mentioned, Erica, you will mention it from time to time, that if you ever see someone that is wearing that symbol, they have been touched by the loss of a child.
Yes.
And it's an opportunity to recognize them and to ask about their child, their loss. And then that brings people together, and that gives a connection, and for people to know that they're not alone. And I have seen people out and about, and sometimes you just don't expect it at all, and there it is. And I find I'm sad that they have to be wearing it, but yet I'm very thankful that I know that what that means, and to recognize that. And the memorial site and the star up there is just beautiful. And so that what the group did, what the four mothers did when they came together, is just amazing. And so that brings us here today, and it's because of the kids that we want to remember.
Right.
So,
because nothing prepares you for this role that you have to learn how to live.
absolutely.
But you do have to live, and so live for that child that has passed, and for their memories.
Yes.
And your other children, too.
Yes, because you have another daughter.
We have
Kia.
a daughter.
Yep.
Right. And who now has 3 children. And so they get to learn about their Uncle John. But of course, he was only 15, so they weren't even imagined
Right.
when he passed.
But now there's a park across the street from your house.
Right.
Right. And
The city named a park after our son, which is quite the honor. We were very thrilled. And the neighborhood were the ones that we live in, were the ones that instigated that. So there is now John Basil Janavaras Park in Southview, Mankato, Minnesota.
right. And
A great neighborhood for
yes,
kids.
It's a beautiful, beautiful way to carry on John's legacy.
Yeah, he was well liked throughout the community, and it just reflected back on the community loving him.
Well, and often people ask me what I do, and I tell them that I'm with One Bright Star, and they're like, "Oh, I know his mom. I know John's mom. She started that." And so people know who you are. They know John.
Yeah.
And they share memories, and it's amazing because it's been how many years?
Well, since 1995, it's going to be 30 years real quick here.
And people are still talking about John, and they're still talking about, that day. They remember that day, and they'll share memories of, oh yeah, on the bus doing this, and
Yeah.
John was hilarious. And
Yeah, he was a friend, and he had way more friends probably than Mom would like. But he was a very, very social and friendly young man who would try to help. He'll pick out a kid in school that he didn't think was having very many friends, and he decided he'd be that kid's friend for the day or two. I mean, that's the kind of kid he was. And it didn't matter if the children were older than he was or younger. They all can be friends with him. And we have some wonderful videos of him playing in the front yard with the neighbor kids who now are grown up with kids of their own in the same neighborhood. So it's nice. But these are just wonderful memories that families should make about their children who have passed. Mine is just one example.
And I think it's wonderful because you are always really good about welcoming us to talk about John. And as Erica pointed out, making us feel comfortable that that's okay. You talk about the cleansing tears. But I often think we will ask you about your daughter and how your grandkids are doing. But then, we want to remember to ask, how old would John be now? And, to talk about him, because if John were here, you would have gone through the graduations and he likely would be married and you would still be talking about him. And so you point out
those are the hard conversations to have, right?
Right. But just to keep talking about him in his short 15 years, he did amazing things. And the people that he touched, here's a kid that really got it.
Yeah.
And
he's our forever 15 boy.
Yes, that's neat. Those are the things too, Linda, that you help us appreciate is that, you give me courage, because if I ever had to go through the tragedy that you went through to lose a child, which is a parent's worst nightmare, you and all the parents and the families that we have been connected with give us that hope that we will be able to go on because we have to go on and live for the other children and for ourselves. And that's what our loved ones would want.
Right.
And
sometimes that's hard.
Yes.
But in the long run, it's the best medicine for us.
Yes.
It's not that we forget, when you begin, you don't think you ever will smile again. But one day you do. And then you cry, and then you smile, and then you cry, and it's just a process.
Yes.
And every step is different for the parents. Every parent is different. There is no set principle for grief.
No
it
right or
comes
wrong.
in waves, comes in waves. But it's softer. And then one day I'll wake up and cry all over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aww. You talked about he's our forever 15 boy, and I think that's really sweet. What are some of the things you do? You just have an amazing family, Linda. What are some of the things that you and Basil do to remember or to honor, I should say, as well, John? Do you have certain traditions that you like to do, birthday, holiday?
Well, his favorite day was his birthday.
Okay.
I mean, by far. And you better have cake.
Deal.
You better have cake, okay?
And he was born on May 30th, which is traditional Memorial Day.
Yes.
Okay.
So his birthday's coming up.
Okay.
And what we have done is, now I'm going to cry.
No,
That's okay.
Yes.
But we have 4 scholarships we give each year. So they will be announced. 2 hockey and 2 soccer scholarships, a boy and a girl of each, from West High School. And so 4 will be announced this Sunday in the paper, and we'll send them an email so they know they're getting it.
Oh, yes.
But that is one way that we've continued on with remembering our son also.
Okay. I was actually at one of the award ceremonies for West soccer.
Back in the day?
Yeah, back in the day when we still saw people.
Yeah.
And we had sporting events. But my husband coaches for West soccer, girls soccer. And I had many kids play soccer. But I remember hearing that because I didn't know this, scholarship even existed. And I was sitting in this auditorium crying. And my husband's like, "What's the matter?" And I was like, "That's John. Linda's John." And it was just, it was just so awesome and touching. I got goosebumps, it was just an amazing thing to carry on because people then ask, who is John Janavaras? you know, like the younger kids, like my kids.
Yeah.
You know?
So, so this is what we've done. But one thing that has changed is the counselor at West decided that she wanted to send the kids a little bio about him because it's been a long time. And so she did that. Plus, she talked about a book was written about the West High team, which featured Johnny, Scarlet Ice. And right, so these young people now are reading that book and learning more about him. And then one of the rules for the scholarship is they need to write me a letter and tell me about them and how then they relate to the younger kids, because that was part of John. He could relate to those young people, and I wanted to see their humanity.
That's great.
And it is hard to pick these kids. You feel like you wish that you could give them all the scholarships, but you have to pick one for each, and so that's the rule, and that's what we do annually.
I love that. I think that's such an amazing thing that you can do for our community and to help carry on John.
Well, it all started with the community, because back then people were just giving us money, and so we just put it in a fund and decided we just keep feeding it. So it's a thank you from us to back to the community too. Mankato's been wonderful.
You've talked about it before, that when John passed, it was so public. It was hard because you didn't have an opportunity to kind of grieve privately, is what I've kind of gathered from you.
It was a very public death because of the epidemic that hit Mankato. It was around the world and ours. Right. My husband has family in Greece, and they learned about it on the news.
Oh, goodness.
So it was very tragic for us, but was tragic for many people throughout the world. So in the early days, we had many our front door was a revolving door for reporters. And so you get kind of numb from that. But we survived, and we moved on, and thank goodness that my staff at my business ran my business while I was incapacitated. I have no idea how long that we were away.
You really appreciate the support that you have around you. You talk about the community, but that is where when you and Basil have had the ability to continue that scholarship. I mean, you took the funds that were donated to you or given to you, and then you gave back to the community in honor of John. And that is just so wonderful that you're able to do that, and that you continue to do that. But yes.
It's very important to us.
Well, I mean, and not only with the scholarship but with One Bright Star, with the nonprofit, with the memorial, there's so many ways that you have created with the three other mothers a way to give back to the community. And,
right.
And that's...
because we want our community and our world to be more understanding to those that have lost loved ones. Because in our very fast American lifestyle, we tend to want to move on. And people that have had death upon them, it's hard. It's a hard and path to walk. So we need to try to be a little more understanding and patient.
Compassion.
Compassion
is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for creating One Bright Star, because it gives people the opportunity. It gives me an opportunity to learn and appreciate and understand that compassion and how important that is. And how you've mentioned it before, Linda. You said, when you first were going through those weeks and months after John had passed, you would go to the grocery store and you would see people, and then, sometimes you didn't want to go because you didn't want to see people, or you would see people and because they didn't know what to say, they would avoid you.
Right.
And
the grocery store probably is the hardest place to go because it's a place that everyone goes very often. But, and all four of us felt the same way. That trip to the grocery store was the worst because you didn't want to see anyone and they were afraid to see you. And those were those baby steps that you really had to walk and get over, so that you could start living your life again in a different way, but moving on. And so with One Bright Star, we wanted it to help. Our goal here was to be a networking organization that, because not everyone grieves the same, therefore we would like to help point people in different directions to help them that's best for them. So our website was developed with different areas that people could use and read, and to help them in their path of grief.
And the memorial is such an amazing place to grieve. I didn't realize how many people went up to the memorial and sat there and had conversations with their brother that they lost, or, their child. I had no idea that many people sat at that bench.
Having the memorial gives you a place to go and reflect that isn't the cemetery. So it gives you another place to go and remember your child.
What I've really appreciated when I've gone up there, and every single time I've been up there the past few weeks, a few times, and I still go and I will look at the wall and start to look at the plaques and just to read them, to see the pictures and the ages, and to know all of these families that have been touched by this amazing loss. You don't feel alone, but yet you are just really humbled. And it's just a beautiful place to go to. And like you said, reflect on what people have gone through, and these young, beautiful souls that have gone before us, that have gone ahead of us, and to remember and to think of them. And yes.
Right. They, and when we built the memorial site there, we selected it because it was a children's park. And that was important too, because we're talking about children here.
Yes.
People that still are under the umbrella of their parents. So we wanted it to reflect that and make it easy for people to come to. And I think Erlinson Park works out really great for that. I think it works out
great. The city has been wonderful to work with, and we're able to have our fall memorial service up there. That's one of my most favorite events that we have.
Oh, I like the Children's Night of Remembrance.
And that's
in December.
Yes.
That's a newer one now too. And when those luminaries are put out there and it's all lit up, it's beautiful.
I look at it and I'm like, wow, there's so many beautiful luminaries. And then at the same time, I'm like, ugh.
Each one is a child.
Each one is a child. And and
it's beautiful and heartbreaking all at the same time.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the words that I felt, but that's exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we celebrate National Children's Memorial Day in December.
Yes.
Right. And one of the other events that we have done, or that has been started in the last few years, and you talk about it to help each other kind of journey through, or to start to make that journey, like that trip to the grocery store and to get through it. We have Comfort Coffee. And
yes, we now with COVID, we just started it up last week. Yesterday, as a matter of fact. And it's just a time to get together and talk. It's not set. There's no set agenda there, but we want to feel like it's a safe place. So we happen to have a new mother that came, and so she was able to share, and we could share back with her, and it is comforting. And whether you talk about your child or you talk about the weather, you're still in the same group.
You're together.
You're together.
You have this
for that
connectedness.
1 hour in the morning.
Yes. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So Comfort Coffee takes place the fourth Tuesday of every month from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I almost said p.m. That would have been a long coffee haul. At the Courtyard by Marriott in Mankato. So if you ever want, please join some of our One Bright Star mothers to have that group gathering, togetherness, and
it's a small group at this point, but you also put it on Facebook, so our Facebook page would be a great place for people to find when our events are.
Or our website, onebrightstar.org.
And actually, you had mentioned mothers, but at this point, anyone is welcome. Fathers, anyone to the Comfort Coffee.
We've had
yes.
dads there before.
And yes. And so that's great. And we may even add another one, but we're always looking for things that we can do, but we just have to figure out schedules. So
absolutely. Well, Linda, it has been wonderful talking to you and talking about John. I always enjoy hearing stories about John, and actually I've come to you for advice about my son, who's 14, and he's super fun right now. So yes, any advice I can get. But thank you so much for being with us today, and I'll probably make you come back.
Okay, fine.
All right. Until next time, this is Erica Fisher
and Alicia Moore
with One Bright Stars Life After Loss podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to One Bright Stars Life After Loss podcast. Life After Loss is a copyrighted production of One Bright Star. One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast is sponsored by the law firm of Burkholtz and Associates. For more information on the lifelong journey after losing a loved one, please visit our website at onebrightstar.org.